Today we're building easy to install floating shelves with wireless LED lights. Ooh. We just started the office renovation and I built this 11 drawer cabinet, which is working out great, but now we need to address the wall. We've got a big open span here, so I think 3 floating shelves is gonna work. Now having those LEDs in there is gonna be awesome. Not sure exactly how I'm gonna do that. We'll figure it out. I'm Brad from FTBT. Let's build something awesome. All right, I'm gonna be making these out of 3/4 inch birch plywood. And each of these sheets is gonna be able to give me 2 shelves. I'm gonna start breaking down the plywood with my track saw. We're basically gonna be using all the rest of this, cutting out just a few parts to make the folded miter box. Here's kind of how this is gonna work. I've cut out a little piece of paper. You'll have a top and a bottom, a front, and then 2 sides. And then when they all fold in together, you'll have a nice little floating shelf. And cutting down on the cross cuts first is gonna make it the easiest. For the next cuts, I need to adjust the bevel on the track saw. And I'm actually gonna go past 45 degrees here. So I'm gonna go right at 46 and lock it down. So by setting the saw past 45 degrees, that means we will have a tight outside corner and there will be a gap on the inside, but that'll all be hidden. It'll be a nice place for the glue squeeze out to go as well. Now I'm gonna mark in from each side the depth of my shelf. And these are gonna be 10 inches because 10 inches is about the largest you can go and still get 2 shelves out of 1 sheet of plywood. All right, now we've got that nice bevel down the side here, and I'm gonna do the same exact thing over on the other end, and then we can start cutting everything apart, and then in the end, we'll cut this into smaller pieces, and we'll already have the bevel on it. So we've got bevels on the ends, and we do have a bevel on the main sheet, but it's the wrong direction. So now all we have to do is flip the track around and make the same exact cuts, except with the bevel going into the main board. All right, now we could just go ahead and use the track saw to cut down the length. And if you don't have a table saw, that works totally fine. But I'm gonna have a little bit more control on the table saw, and I think it's gonna get a better cut. So I'm gonna move over and do that for the rest of the length cuts. Now I can take the blade up and tilt it to about 46 degrees. But before I do that, I'm gonna mark a triangle across these boards so I can easily put them back together and not get them mixed up. Now I can just raise the blade up here. I'm gonna use one of these digital angle finders to set the blade. These things are really cool because you can just zero them out right on your table and then attach it to the side of the table saw. Then I can adjust the tilt of the blade until it gets over to 45.5 or 46 degrees. Now, these things are awesome. You can pick them up at Woodcraft. You can pick up all the tools that I use over at Woodcraft. They're an awesome sponsor of the channel, and I'll have a link down below in the description to woodcraft.com. You can go check them out online or visit one of their 70 locations around the US. Now I can run each panel through on one side and then flip it around on the other, and I'll have my top and bottoms, and then we can deal with the middle. And it'd look a lot cooler if I took the blade guard off, but I like safety and I hate dust, so it's staying on. All right, now we've got all of our parts. I've got 3 pairs of sides that will match up with 3 fronts. And all of these have the miter cut on one side and need it on the other side still. Now this last cut is going to define the thickness of your shelves because this will go on the sides and the front. And you can adjust the thickness as you want, but obviously you can't go any thinner than 1.5 inches because you have the full plywood top and bottom. And on all these angled cuts, make sure you're using your guard. And if you are not using your guard, make sure you're using a good push stick, or better yet, do both. Make sure your hands are protected or away from the blade. All right, moment of truth. I have not dry fit these yet. I figured we'll just do it on camera and see what happens. What could go wrong? So I'm gonna spin around, and I gathered all my A parts because I labeled everything, so that helps out. Let's see which way. So these triangles really help out as well. Ooh, not bad. Not bad at all. Almost dropped it. I think that's gonna do. Well, I just got done recording a whole thing and assembling this, and I tell you what, it did not turn out as I had planned.
It could go wrong.
Definitely coming untaped. No! It is not how to do it. All right. It shouldn't be this hard. Now, I've done this in the past using packing tape and it's worked great, but I use this new tape that I've had and it doesn't have as strong as an adhesive. So it's just all coming up and not holding it well at all. And I had a horrible time flipping it over because everything was coming off. So I went out and grabbed some filament tape, and this is very different. This has the actual reinforcement inside there, and it's a little bit more flexible. I actually got this tip from Spencer Lewis off Insider Carpentry. He's got a great video on floating shelf installs and all kinds of tips. He's awesome. Go check him out. I was trying to find other tapes that people used, and I found his video is very helpful. So I'm gonna unwind this and put some of this new filament tape on there, and hopefully we'll be in business. And with the stronger tape, this should fold over a lot easier as well. Oh yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. All right, this looks awesome now. The top edge is almost perfect.
Yes, it is.
There's some little gaps on the bottom, but that's okay. We can seal those up. Before I glue it though, so these are spacers I cut over on the table saw, and I made them to the exact width of inside so that it could be at 90 degrees. I cut these to size so that there's about 2 inches in the back, and that'll allow us to have the mounting hardware in there and not cause any interference with the support blocking. Now I can just make sure the joints are all clean, put some glue on the bracing as well as the miters, and I'll fold it up and tape it in place. All right, I'm gonna flip it over and check out the front corners. See everything's coming together. It looks pretty good. Now, another tip I got from Spencer was to burnish the corners while the glue is still wet. So I'm just lightly rolling over the corners to close any gaps, and that way the glue will dry everything nice and tight, and you won't have any issues closing them up when the glue is dry. I flipped it back down, and if I cut everything right and assembled it, these edge pieces should fit in like butter. Oh, yes. We'll put that on a roll, because it's butter. All right, now I can set this aside to dry overnight and come back tomorrow. All right, next day, let's see how these miters turned out. Ooh, that is looking good. There are a few little gaps. I'm just gonna try to close those up with the screwdriver. That almost disappears. With some finish on there, you won't be able to tell. Now we're gonna go over and start working on the LEDs before we do finish sanding. All right, LED downlighting, it's just cool. I think it's awesome. I wanted this to be completely wireless so I could run it off of a USB battery pack and then have a remote control to control it. Some of them also have Bluetooth and apps and things like that, but those take a little bit more power typically. So this is a cheapo version I bought just to see how it looked. This only has 80 LEDs in the total 5-meter length, or 16.4 feet, versus this little more expensive variety that has 300 per 5 meters. So this one's gonna have 4 times more LEDs than this one, and this one gives a lot truer color. I'll have a link down below to both of these, but here's what they look like just to show you a little comparison. So these are both running off the battery packs. This is the cheaper version with the 80 lights per 5 meters, and this is supposed to be white. It is definitely blue tinge, so it's not a very nice light at all, and they're very spread out, versus this one, which has 300 per 5 meters. Check this out. Now this one looks way better. It's got a lot more pixel density. The white actually looks white versus blue, and this is just a much better product. Both of these run off of remotes, and they have different types of modes that you can use. And whatever you buy, make sure you get RF radio frequency versus infrared because it doesn't need a direct line of sight to control it. Now the one downside, the one I'm specifically using, I already had the lights, so I just bought a controller, so it's kind of a bunch of different pieces you have to piece together, but I love playing around with electronics, so I have fun doing it. If that's not your thing, buy an all-in-one kit. I don't know, do you guys like electronics? Let me know down in the comments because I really like it. I want to do more electronics, LEDs, and kind of fun stuff in my projects. And to make a recess for this little aluminum U channel, I'm going to put together a quick jig. I used the offcuts from those very first cuts on the pieces of plywood, and I cut them down to 3 inches because I want the lighting 3 inches from the back of the strip. Now all I'm going to do is put this in between them. Now I can just CA glue on the end cap here, bring a little accelerator on there. We'll do the same on the other end. All right. That will work. I did a couple test cuts with the jig and I found the depth that I need, and this is gonna fit in there nice and flush with the surface. So now I can cut the channels in the shelves. The grooves are in place for the aluminum channel, but now I need to make some holes in the channel as well as the bottom of the shelf for the LEDs. There's gonna be little connectors that go in to hide all the electronics and still connect to the strips on the outside. I'm gonna add a couple really cool things to this to make it completely wireless and rechargeable, but I'm waiting on Amazon to deliver it. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this all up. I'm gonna use a card scraper to get off most of the glue. Card scrapers are great because you can really control how much you're taking off and you won't burn through it like you do with sandpaper sometimes. After that, I'm gonna put on a few layers of Halcyon Clear from Total Boat and get this thing finished up. And by that time, hopefully the truck shows up and then I can wire everything together. To make the mounting cleats for the shelves, I'm going to use the offcut piece that I had from the rest of that plywood. I'm going to cut it into some strips and then assemble. I've got all my parts here and I'm just gonna be basically stacking these together and then having little pieces on the edge so that the back ends up being a double thick layer and everything is gonna be glued or nailed together and give it a lot of strength to hold up the shelves. All right, the Amazon guy finally showed up and I got a switch and a charging cable. We've got a battery which has a USB powered adapter that goes into the controller, into the LED, and this works great. The problem though is because it's RF, it's always listening, meaning it's always draining the battery. So you can see the light is on even when it's off. But the switch is gonna be the secret that's gonna help the battery from draining when it's just not being used. So I'm gonna wire this into the power cable, but eventually I will need to recharge it. So I'm gonna use this extension cable so that I can charge the battery from outside of the shelf. I will just put this right into the bottom of the shelf and then connect the inner part into the battery. And that way I can plug in and charge the battery. I'm gonna get all this stuff wired up and then we'll be ready for install.
test this out. Yes! Oh, it works.
All right, this is looking great. The button is working, and now I am ready to install these, but I grabbed the cleat just to take a little look. I did not factor this in at all, and this runs directly into the button and into where the power charger is going to be. So I'm going to have to cut this one down, but for the other two, I will adjust it and move the buttons closer to the front edge. You know, we almost got out of it, but mistakes were made. I'm going to wrap all these up and then install inside. Got the brackets up, and using a 6 or 7 foot level is a lot better than using a 4 foot level, so do that. So now all I have to do is fit these on there, and hopefully they didn't bow too much and they'll go right on. All right, this fits great. Put the rest up, we'll be done. Let's see if they work. Oh yeah, that's nice. If you want to check out the rest of the Office Makeover, I got a playlist queued up for you right there. If you're not subscribed already, we'd love to have you as part of the team, and a big thank you to all those folks that are part of the FTBT Builders Club. Until next time, guys, get out there and build something awesome.